Welcome to the Hopefulist with me, Wendy McClure. This is where we turn those nasty, negative thoughts into positive and work toward a happy, fulfilled life. Now, let's get started. Welcome, and this is another bonus episode of the Hopefulist where we have a guest, Judith Weigel, host of the Amicable Divorce Podcast. Judith, welcome.
Well, it's so nice to be here, Wendy. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, we were just joking a little bit off screen that divorce is not the happiest, friendliest topic that people really want to talk about.
That's right. We were talking about the TEDx. You know, you have to do topics on the TEDx. What are you an expert in? And then for corporate talks, it's really hard to incorporate it. But when people are going through divorce, if this is what I've found, if you can help them compartmentalize their time so that they can live their lives the way they have to, go to work, raise their kids, go to the gym, oh my God, what a concept, and take care of themselves, and then put the divorce in places that are non-competitive in their lives, I can provide them a much better divorce experience, if that's not an oxymoron.
Yes, exactly. Well, and that's, kind of how I wanted to start is, the worst has happened, divorce is now being talked about. Maybe the process has started. How do you go forward knowing your whole life is about to change, whether you have to move or don't move, but, co-parent or take the kids half the time? You know what I mean? Like there's going to be big changes.
Exactly. It's the way you frame it and position it in the larger landscape of your life. That's where the hopefulness comes in. That's when you get to use divorce as a new beginning. So you're going to go through the sadness. You go through what I call the emotional divorce, and you really should go through that before you even start the filing, because you did have good times, hopefully, with your soon-to-be former spouse. You did enjoy married life to a certain extent. Most people do. But okay, now for whatever reason, it's coming to an end. You're transitioning out of it. Always the ultimate optimist. I have always lived like this, even through my own depressing times. We all go through our own sad times. Our life changes measurably in different aspects of our lives. Career, a parent dies, a sibling dies, a pet dies. I mean, we are connected to life in many different ways. But if you can position and frame that experience so that you use it for a new beginning somehow, some way, now you have something to look forward to. And that's right. The way you get through it.
Well, and I've often heard that you do not divorce the same person that you marry, which I always thought was very good.
Excellent point. That's really nicely said. A woman named Julie Turner, a life coach, I interviewed her on the podcast a year ago. She was saying that when you divorce, you are yourself a different emotional person. So don't try and go back to who you were. Look at who you are now, why this life change is important, and who you want to be in the future. So that's you. Your point is you're not divorcing the same person you married. Well, you are and you aren't. You're not divorcing the person that you were in love with because you're no longer in love with that person. And now you're looking at each other differently. You really are. And one thing people say all the time is, geez, that's not the person I married, or he or she is acting differently than he or she has acted in the past. Perfectly normal. Because when you're going to get divorced, you are a changed person, or you wouldn't be able to say, I need a new life.
What do you think is most important with your own sense of self, where say you didn't want this situation, you're not the one who approached the subject, you did everything you could to keep the marriage together, yet it falls apart anyway. How do you keep the bitterness and resentment at bay, to try and move on with your life in a productive manner?
I think you have to be bitter initially. I think you have to let all those negative emotions come to the surface. You have to feel them. You have to go through the anger. You have to go through the betrayal. You have to go through the lack of trust. You have to go through all of that. And then as you let that bubble to the surface and release it, then you have the capacity and the space to reshape your life. Life happens for us, not to us. I thought Tony Robbins said that when I watched his Netflix special about the date with destiny, and he let producers and cameramen in, and he never used to do that before. Okay. So, but it wasn't him. I do forget the philosopher or the writer who said it, but I thought that was such a cool phrase to use.
It might be
Life
Jim Rohn,
happens
because that was
for,
a big he was with Jim Rohn a lot. So I don't know if that name rings a bell.
it does, but
Okay.
I don't think that's the person who
Okay.
invented that phrase. I wish I could remember it, but needless to say, people have used it, and it's a good phrase to use. Life happens for us, not to us. So you could look at any number of shocking incidences that happen. I mean, okay, this is gruesome, but remember the Boston Marathon
Mm-hmm.
and the bombing?
Yes.
People lost their limbs.
Right.
There's this one woman who lost, I think, both of her legs. And she said, I can't even believe she said it, Wendy. It was the best thing that could have happened to me. It literally changed my life. I would never be living the life I'm living now if that horrifying, shocking event hadn't happened. And that's really like divorce. You feel like your body is being ripped apart. I don't know. Are you divorced?
I am not divorced. No.
Okay, but you've had friends who have
Yes.
been,
Well,
and
and
they
that's,
just,
I'm kind of leading to a little bit. I have a friend, a very dear friend, who really is just romanticizing his entire marriage, and still 5 years later is bitter, resentful, mad that his life plan has gone off course. And I just can't get through to him to, one, he's not being honest about how the situation really was. And two, I can't get him to be like, I'm sorry this happened, but now let's move on with your life. He's still just stuck in this. I was supposed to grow old with this person, and it's all ruined now. And I'm just like, you're just hurting yourself.
no, you're totally right. First of all, maybe that wasn't the life plan for him, and he just didn't know it. It certainly wasn't his spouse's life plan at the time the spouse wanted a divorce. And you nailed it. You used the word romanticizing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, people do that. Nothing was wrong. I can't believe I just got served with divorce papers. How shocking. I have gotten this call several times, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
by experience, not to not to not to start telling them they're wrong, just let them talk, because eventually what happens is, well, we went to therapy for years. We always had problems. Okay, so that's now a very different thing you're saying than when I picked up the phone and you were crying and you said, I just can't believe it. There were no warning signs. What that really means is I'm so shell shocked, I don't even know what to think. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the next thing is. So, did your friend ever go to therapy?
Yeah, he's been in therapy, and he says that he's good, but you can just tell by the remarks that he makes, and things that he says, that he's still just,
No,
not
he's not
there.
good. No, he's not
No.
good. He's not good. If he's still bitter, if he's still upset, then he hasn't let go. He hasn't moved on. And there are people like that, but you can move on. You can let go. You can lose the bitterness. if you accept that things simply happen in your life that you have no control over, and you can use these for your own benefit if you allow that to be. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't, you're going to lose family and friends because there's only so long people want to hang out with you and listen.
Oh, that is the truth. That is the truth for sure. How can we maybe, I don't know, I guess in the beginning steps where, we were talking about your whole life does seem to change overnight. Like, how can you keep overwhelm from just taking over your life?
You have to compartmentalize. And that's something new that I started thinking about over the past 4 to 6 months. And I literally just had a conversation with one of my clients this morning about this. And weeks go by between one step and another because she's overwhelmed. She has a huge job. She's in charge of a lot of people. And she doesn't have a printer even and a scanner she can use to get forms to me. And so I started saying to her, look, the number one thing you have to do is go to work each day. Use your job as your respite. Don't play with the divorce while you're working. Schedule evening time, schedule weekend time. And that's when you get back to the people that are working on the divorce with you. And that's when you do the work you have to do, fill out forms, get emails back. Let the professionals in your divorce life know this is when I can schedule time to do the legal work. And when they know that, then they can support you. But don't try and mix the two. You still need a social life. You still need to take care of your body and your mind. Go to yoga, go to goat yoga. I went to goat yoga a few months ago. It was one of the most fun things I've ever done. And these goats are so cute and so cool. You know, I'm in LA, so nothing is weird in
Well,
LA.
okay.
But you laugh. So there were like 50 people. It was out in the park in Santa Monica, and they had 3 trained goats that were used to it. Tiny little animals and trainers. And they would walk around you and stand on you. It was totally cute, but you had to sign a goat waiver that
Okay.
if a goat went to the bathroom on
Oh
you,
no.
which they did, that you wouldn't get mad at the goat. You would chill and be okay with everybody signed up immediately. It was just too much fun.
It does sound like fun.
So you have to compartmentalize. That's really what I think the name of the game is. So
So
that
are
you
you
can,
saying kind of make it like a schedule? Like, okay, well, in the morning, I'm going to get the kids breakfast ready, get them off to school. Then I've got work from 9 to 5. And then maybe, after dinner is done, I can maybe, figure out what's happening or whatever. But put aside the time for the other important things that are happening in your life.
you have to, or you will literally crumble. And here's something else. If you're not going through an amicable divorce, if you're going through a contentious divorce, and your spouse has a tendency to send you untoward, unfavorable communications in email and text. Nobody picks up the phone anymore if they want to be mean. They put it in writing.
And it's so much
You,
easier that way.
and it's so much easier because you can spew the venom and then leave the room.
Yeah.
Don't answer. Do not answer those. There are books upon books about this. There's an author, Wendy, by the name of Bill Eddy, Eddy. He writes the best books on how to communicate in a contentious divorce. You don't have, it's not required that you respond to meanness. And when you don't, the last words hanging out there are the bitter words. And your spouse won't know what's going on. You will literally get a favorable advantage if you are silent because they won't know. Oh my
And it's
God.
hard to do that. I do know that it's hard to do that, but at the same time, I was just listening to a conversation and somebody had talked about, I think it was the Buddha, had said, when he is faced with anger, he just merely walks away saying, I don't accept your anger. I don't accept
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. And you can turn that around. You can turn the situation around because you're not feeding the beast. Don't play that game. Set your own rules, and your own rules are we can speak respectfully to one another. That's the way I speak, kind of what the Buddha said. Yeah. And I've often thought, what would it be like if in any conversation I was having with somebody, they were mean to me? What if I just walked away? What if I simply hung up the phone? What if I didn't respond? It makes it better. I tried it. It makes it better.
And as somebody that I would have never been able to do that even just a few years ago, because to me, it was just a sign of disrespect. So I would have this need to fight back. But I've learned, and I'm not perfect, but I've learned that the other approach is better. I do still think that some people feel like they're letting people walk all over them if they do respond by not responding. So how do you get right with that in your head?
It's not walking all over you. You're getting a handle, you're getting an upper hand on the psychological game. It's a psych game going on. When people bully you, when they're mean to you, first of all, they're not feeling all that good inside, or they wouldn't be that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually working at a disadvantage for themselves, but to compensate, they're being mean to you. So you really are establishing the upper hand when you don't play that game. Establish your own rules.
Yeah.
But Wendy, I know what you mean because I would go through that too. I would feel immediately defensive
Right.
and not even think about, well, should I answer? Should I not? No, I was going to answer.
Just
I was going to,
automatically.
oh God, stop everything you're doing and bang out that email and then hit send. And then, oh my God, you read it later and you want to just bury yourself. Oh, shoot. Why did I say that? Oh my God. What are they going to do with this now? Don't do it.
Yeah,
There's
it's a
urge.
cycle that just perpetuates itself between the two of you. And I've been in that, even like a business, ordeal that I've had issues with customer service, whatever. I'm like, and my heart is racing and my everything's pounding. And I have learned that the ability to step back is better for my peace. That it's just better for me overall as a person to not get involved in all of that.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. And so let's give a tip to the audience. And the tip would be you kind of know those relationships that you have in your life, a divorce or others, where quickly it gets contentious. Set yourself up mentally ahead of time for what you're going to do when you get that next expected, because they're going to come with certain people, certain situations. Just set yourself up now with how you're not going to respond timing wise immediately, and then how you are going to respond when you do. And never blame. Just simply say, thank you so much for your communication. Here's my thinking going forward. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. You haven't defended yourself. You haven't offended the other person. You've kept it very, very neutral. And when people can do that, you won the communication game.
Yeah.
You did.
And that's hard to do though. But
It
yes.
really is. We just have to play act in our heads. Now, so what do you do with the unexpected? You think you have things are going great. All of a sudden you get this weird email about you've done something wrong. Or I didn't like what you did. Something that's a little negative. That's when you really have to take a breath. That's when you have to print it out, put it down on the desk. Don't look at it immediately. Put it aside, get some other work done. get some candy, whatever you do, and then read it quietly, outline things that are important to address. Do not address the things that are not important. And the things that are not important are the things that may be of a pejorative nature. They're not important to address.
Well, and it's one of those things where you have to remember who you are. And if you're reading something that makes you feel like you want to be on the defense automatically, that's a sign right there. If you feel the need to defend yourself, there's obviously something going on. And somebody had once explained, especially if it's not true, that's when we get the most outraged, is when we read something, they're like, well, you're doing this. And you're like, oh, this guy's crazy. Of course, I'm not doing that. We get so upset that we feel this need to defend ourselves. But if we know it's not true, think about it something like this. If somebody came up to you and accused you of being a purple dinosaur, you wouldn't get mad and argue, I'm not a purple dinosaur. What's wrong with you? You would just walk away and look at them like they're crazy. This is what you need to do. It's the same thing. If you don't believe it's true, then look at them like they're crazy, because they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or you can simply respond with, I am so very sorry. I would love to respond to you, but I honestly don't know what you're saying. Could you explain this in a different way, please? Just that. So innocent. You were nice. Please. I would love to respond, but I don't understand. Yeah. And then you're creating distance. You're having the person reassess, restate. And I bet a lot of times you'll get, listen, I'm really sorry. I really didn't mean to communicate that way. I just didn't so here's what I'm really talking about.
Well, and the best part is if that's not your usual form of communication, it's really going to throw them for a loop.
Oh, that's right. That's right. In fact, in one of Bill Eddy's books, he used an example of somebody who had come to him for communication coaching, and she was constantly receiving negative emails, negative communication from her soon-to-be former husband. And she just adopted this policy of nice. And eventually, he was a narcissist too. Very difficult to train a narcissist. But here's the key and the secret in training a narcissist to be nice. You be the nicest you can be, and that narcissist has nowhere to go.
That's true. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
That's right. And her former husband, actually said, I'm sorry I was so mean to you, because she was so consistently nice. So we can, by our words and our actions, train people around us to be nice to us.
And help diffuse, potentially explosive situations as well.
That's right.
Speaking of contention, in the news lately, we've been seeing this issue with Kim Kardashian and Kanye West. And, for those who do not follow this stuff, and I only came across it because I saw Trevor Noah speaking on it. And I thought it was so well spoken, the way he said, you can love or hate Kim Kardashian, but, since her split with Kanye, she is very powerful. She does have a lot of money, but yet she is being harassed by her ex via social media, probably through text and all of that stuff too. What do you do if you feel like you're in it? Because that's really the part that struck me. She is very powerful. She is very wealthy, and yet she can't stop this from happening. So how do we, especially if we are not on that level, go about trying to calm the situation? Or can we?
I have been following that. I've devoted maybe 3 or 4 episodes in my Celebrity Divorce series, which is the last Wednesday of every month, to Kim and Kanye, because there's various aspects of their divorce that are important for other people. And the use of social media is a big issue. I had an attorney by the name of Lamore Mojdehiyazad, a young 30-something attorney in Beverly Hills. And she came on and we did divorces with everybody in the Super Bowl halftime show, all the rappers that were getting divorced. They were at different levels of their divorce.
Okay.
Mary J. Blige had to go back on tour to pay spousal support.
Oh, no.
To her former husband. That was really funny. And Kanye was in the stands and he was photographed in the stands. And so we pulled him in. And she, being a millennial and an attorney, a family law attorney, spent time talking about social media. And this is what I was thinking about with Kanye and the way he was behaving in social media regarding Kim and Pete Davidson.
Which is her new boyfriend, if you don't know.
Right. There's a custody issue going on here. That hasn't been resolved. There's a visitation schedule going on here. And there are mental health challenges on Kanye's record. Right. And so what Kim can do, if she hasn't already, is she can either put a gag order on him that he cannot communicate on social media at all, and there are penalties to that. There is a, when you can't get near somebody.
Restraining order.
Thank you so much. So restraining orders, I know. In this day and age, words do escape me. There's too much craziness going on.
I hear you.
So thank you. Thank you. So with restraining orders, they're not only about physically getting close to people, there are communication restraining orders. And you can get that, or then there are penalties also. So anybody like Kanye, who may be using Facebook or Twitter or Instagram to expose what they're angry about in the relationship, there are penalties and consequences to pay. If you do that, you are establishing yourself as unfit. And that's exactly what Kanye's doing. He's establishing himself as an unfit parent, just because that transfers over onto how you talk to your kids. Okay. And we've already, I don't know, do you know about his mom and when his mom passed, what he went through? It was tough on him.
I know he was very, very close with his mother, and his mother died very suddenly.
Yeah.
Because I've never been a fan of Kanye, but I don't know anybody who didn't feel awful when that happened, because you just knew the love that he had for her.
Absolutely. And he felt responsible for her death. He's not. I mean, he wasn't, but he did.
It was a surgery, right? Didn't she go overseas for surgery?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And obviously it didn't turn out well. Well, it didn't turn out with Joan Rivers' death, on surgery either some years ago. I mean, surgery is not perfect. And even if you go in for something minor,
right,
and you're put asleep, anesthesia is really serious. And that's where it lies sometimes, or your body just doesn't respond. And there's nothing anybody can do. The doctor could be perfect and there's nothing you can do. So Kanye's hurting himself more than he's hurting Kim. And I am sure Kim is already busy, hopefully. Now, here's the twist. If she were not a celebrity and had more likes than us and more followers than us, she would still have to get busy at calling her attorneys and getting them to stop this, because the kids are on social media. The kids can see this. There's fallout for everybody. But here's the twist, Wendy, and I'm always cynical about this. Is this working in Kim's best interest to get followers and turn the followers into more money from her sponsors? I know this is weird for me to say, but not really. I live in Hollywood, and you would be surprised, those who don't have this experience, at how people let stuff that you would think is horrible and negative get in the news just to have exposure.
So you think that she's getting a benefit out of this?
I wonder. Let's just say I
Okay.
wonder. Because people get engaged. They want to be Team Kim or Team Kanye. And so that increases your reach, and your reach increases what you make with sponsors. And you don't think for a second Chris isn't hip to that?
Well, and I have to admit, I've never been a Kim fan, never been a Kanye fan, but I have considered following her on Instagram just to see how she's handling this situation. Um, but yeah, I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like Kim. I think everything in her life is contrived. But that's what Noah pointed out is, she could actually be getting harassed and still be, seeking publicity. The two things could be true at the same time. The thing that like I had mentioned earlier, that really sticks out to me is, if she is, and again, if she is really trying to stop this, because again, if you're not familiar with the story, there was a back and forth between Kanye and her new boyfriend, Pete Davidson, who what was very confrontational. Let's just put it that way. And there is just no way that if I were Kim, I would let my boyfriend send an email or a text like that to my ex, who is already, we know, mentally unstable.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. And I thought, Pete, you
Yeah.
don't need to get in the middle of these two people. There's still a custody issue going on. And just get out of the news. I mean, you're on Saturday Night Live, so you're already in front of a camera on a weekly basis. And I'm sure, I mean, does he do stand up? I'm sure he does other things too.
I'm not really
But
sure.
yeah, but you don't want to get in the middle of that stuff. It's never the right place for the third person to be. And so maybe that was not well thought out. But I think the normal person, Wendy, has to look at, is this being used to Kim's advantage? And by the way, I kept up with the Kardashians. I do like them. I do respect that Chris is brilliant beyond belief. Kim is brilliant beyond belief. Khloe doesn't really have a career. I mean, she doesn't. So, I mean, that the other two girls, Kylie and Kendall have real careers.
Yeah.
Courtney used to have a career when they had the clothing store in Calabasas and Miami and New York. I don't know that they still have the clothing store anymore. But I mean, at a certain point, I think Courtney's as rich as she needs to be. I think she probably cashed in. But these girls know how to use social media. By the way, there's another marriage on the horizon. I just read about it on Yahoo. Chris and Corey Gamble.
Yeah.
I questioned that relationship big time. I thought, well, is Corey just her bodyguard and somehow he has to be framed as the boyfriend? I just didn't. I couldn't care less about interracial. That doesn't bother me in the least. But I mean, just who she is and what she talks about and how she thinks versus, what he does daily, it just didn't seem to be a fit, like
Yeah.
a life fit. But I read on Yahoo that they potentially are getting married.
Well,
And
it
I
would be convenient if he's her security.
Yes, it would, wouldn't it? Yes, it would. But you know what? These people have thriving lives and good for them that they do.
Yeah. Well, so then for us, little people who don't have, millions of followers, we need to diffuse these situations and protect ourselves by one, like I'm trying to recap a little bit, not responding in anger, telling our lawyer and the people in charge of our divorce that they need to communicate with them more so than we do. Like, is that like a nice option to be like, you know what, this is something you need to talk to my lawyer about, not me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way to diffuse too. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you were talking about the restraining orders and what else were you mentioning?
Right. So those restraining orders are really important. You get off social media. Social media will serve to bite you when it comes down to it, because anybody using a social media platform to talk about their relationship is really it's very short term. The long-term risk is terrible. And if you have children, you're exposing your children to the worst way you could treat their other parent. Do you really want to do that?
Yeah.
It's not in anybody's best interest to do that.
Yeah, because you can always go back and find this stuff.
Yeah, well, first of all, the kids talk about this in school.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Now,
Even if your kids aren't on social media, the other kids are.
oh, and they'll tell you, oh my
Yes.
God, I just read about your parents today. What's it like? What's going on? And you're like, oh my God, I had no idea. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. And then you go home and your parents have just embarrassed you, when our parents always embarrassed us at a certain age,
Of
whatever
course.
they did. So get off social media until you're done with the divorce. It does not serve you at all.
Yeah. It's so easy to go on there and you just want to vent, but get that buddy that's going to keep their mouth shut and just listen to you whenever you need to go off and vent.
Right. And so in the other recapping, you're going to win the psych game if you don't respond to nasty communication and wait even for a day. That's the best. I mean, I want you to know that if you can wait a day, not only will you be better at responding, but you will have the upper hand all of a sudden, because it's not normal not to respond immediately. And then what was the other thing? Oh, use divorce as a new beginning. First of all, accept that even if you didn't want it, it's here. Do the best you can. Now, how can you turn this around to your benefit? And if you can do it with divorce, you can do it with every single thing in your life.
Yeah, and it really comes down to that. The whole theory behind the Hopefulist is that, I've been a lifelong pessimist and I always focused on, horrible things. My life sucked. I was a victim, blah, blah, blah. And, it's all about perception. It's the way that you look at things. And if you want to play the victim, you can, but you're not going to be very happy.
No, you're going to be really sick inside. And it's not only going to affect your health, mental and physical, it's going to affect your relationships. And for me too, I mean, things well up. I'm famous at having a day of living in the past and all the horrible things that have happened to me. And at a certain point, I'm like, okay, what have I accomplished? And why do I feel awful? Oh, you just spent your day living in the past. Okay. And not the
that
good
makes sense.
past.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after a hard day of living in the past, let's not do that again. You have to train yourself. You really have to train yourself. If you're not naturally like this, you can train yourself to stop the negative thoughts and turn them into positive thoughts. But additionally, I was just playing with this concept the other day, and I did it yesterday, and it actually works. I was thinking, can we physically engineer happiness? Can we physically get ourselves to the point of feeling happy and good? Now, if you're clinically depressed, maybe not you, but for the regular people that just go in and out of feeling shitty and feeling good, I think you can. And so what I thought was, and what I tried yesterday that turned out to be true was, if you just smile, if you just form your face into a smile, like I'm kind of doing between words,
Right.
it changes the way you feel internally.
It also changes the way you come across.
Yes, but you have to start with yourself internally first.
Right.
So try that. And everybody listening, if you're just not feeling so great today, just stop for a second and just put a broad smile on your face and watch how you feel kind of from the waist up, because that's where you're going to feel it. And then call Wendy, email Wendy and let her know, oh my God, it works.
Let me know.
Yeah. I videotaped myself yesterday. I thought, you know what? Let me do a few little honesty clips here. I was completely upset and depressed about something. And I said, okay, I can't work the whole day like this. This is unacceptable. So let me just see if I can go from sad to happy. And all of a sudden, I turned my day around.
It's a mindset shift a lot of times. And, it's not easy, but it is possible.
It is. You actually have to stop and say, okay, wait a minute. I'm really not feeling good. Anger has taken over. You have to stop for a second,
Yeah.
recognize it, and then what are my tools for changing it? And
Right.
the very first thing is just smile.
It's a
Just
great
smile
first tool.
and just take a breath and just say, you know what? Why don't I just not pay attention to this for the rest of the day? Let's just do something else. Let's switch my focus, like with your pets. If you could switch their focus, like with your kids, you do
Right.
something to switch your focus.
I'll switch back to it when I have a tub of Ben and Jerry's in front of me.
I hear you, sister. I hear you.
All right, Judith, tell me all of the places that everyone can find you.
You can find me two places. On my work website, divorceresourceinc.com, divorceresourceinc.com, or on my podcast website, the amicableddivorceexpert.com, the amicableddivorceexpert.com. And you can reach me through those websites.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. We really appreciate it.
I really enjoy you, Wendy, and thank you for allowing me into your world. You
Oh,
do a phenomenal job. I love your episodes. I love the people you have on, and I just love the whole point and purpose of your podcast. So thank you. Thank you for
oh,
doing the work you're doing.
oh, well, thank you. Well, shucks. Now you made me all bashful and shy. All right, Judith, thank you so
Never.
much. And thank you, as always, for tuning in. Now, go on out there and be badass. I'm here cheering you on.